In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
On the sideline this game with us wearing black jerseys.
Oh, Coach Drink. I gotta fit in somehow. I'm more than likely. We'll see what the forecast is. I kind of know, but I'm expecting that. So it's kind of got its own life of its own right now. So we're rolling with it.
That's the only question I needed to find out for the day. All right. See ya.
We call that poking the bear. In sports, we call that poking the bear, having a little bit of fun. Missouri head coach Eli Drinkwitz having a little bit of entertainment there in the annual weekly SEC teleconference there with the coaches that we hear from every single Wednesday evening. Of course, we know the hot topic in Tuscaloosa has been this black hoodie that Kalen DeBoer has pretty much, he doesn't have a choice. The fan base is saying, Coach, you have to wear this because when you wear this, we win. Eli's having a good time with it.
Going into the Vanderbilt game, they were 11-2. Now, I don't know who keeps up with these stats, but
somebody
11-2
somewhere.
going into it.
Yeah.
12-2 now after that win over Vanderbilt. So, yes, no, he has to keep it. And Drink was like, hey, are you going to bring that good luck hoodie over to Columbia? If so, we're going to change our game plan a little bit.
I didn't realize he said, are you going to wear the black hoodie of death? The black hoodie of death is what he called it on the sideline with us wearing black jerseys. That is absolutely hilarious. The black hoodie of death. So I think that Coach has said on record several times that when he wears the black hoodie of death, obviously he understands that people have these ideas that, hey, okay, you have to wear this to win. What am I trying? What's the word I'm not being able to say right now? Superstitions. Sorry, that was the word I'm trying to get to. These superstitions that he has to do that. He's kind of playing around with it. But here's the deal. One slip up not wearing that, and people will come for your head. That is the SEC. It just means more. Fans are outrageous. Nothing makes sense, and that's how it would go.
Every coach, if you start to think about it now, this is now a 12-game sample size, or a 14-game sample size. He's 12-2 with it. But every Bama coach has had their thing. So you had, obviously, Bear Bryant with the houndstooth. Then you had Nick Saban with the straw hat. I know he didn't wear it during games, but he was just always synonymous with him. And now the black hoodie here for Kalen DeBoer. Yes. It might be a superstitious thing where the Bama fans are saying, because Bama fans do this. They change shirts during games. They have game day shirts, game day jerseys. Yep. And they're like, hey, if I see our coach beating Georgia in the black hoodie, I want him to wear this thing all the time.
Whoever did these stats, these are the stats. Let me get them officially here. This is from On3. Okay. In 18 games over the last 2 years, Alabama is 12-2 when DeBoer is in a black hoodie of some kind, and just 1-3 when he coaches wearing crimson. DeBoer is a perfect 10-0 when he sports the classic black hoodie. So, like, there's black shirts, there's the black cutoff, the one with the hood, 10-0. I'm just telling you, as a coach's wife, as a former college athlete, check every single box, as a sports fan, he does not have a choice. You might want to bring one and pack about 4 more just in case you lose one in luggage. That's in the carry-on. You know how they say put the important things in the carry-on? Right. That's going in the carry-on. Yeah. That does not get in the truck. Now listen, I understand that they fly like the private planes and all that. I'm joking. But the seriousness, that you can't have that one left behind.
No, you can't. And Kalen DeBoer has said that he is not a superstitious guy. Sure. I'm not really superstitious. I mean, I'll have an umbrella up during, inside the building. I'll walk underneath a ladder. But if I'm around somebody who I know it's superstitious, see, that's the thing, I don't believe in it. So even the salt over the shoulder, I don't believe that this
Patrick,
is
I'm going to ask you to come in on this one because I don't think that's accurate. Because literally just yesterday, you weren't wearing your Cub shirt, and you're like, I wore my Cub shirt. And by the way, Patrick is celebrating the beginning of the hockey season. But the other day, yesterday. No, don't try to backdoor that. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I love nothing more than proving guys wrong in life, and most especially on this show. And it's a daily occurrence. And so thank you for eating your words on this. But just yesterday, you're like, I didn't have a Cub shirt, and now they won.
Yeah, but now you can't ever wear it again.
Now at this point, you've already backdoored. I mean,
it's just got to be around me. That's the thing. It's got to be around me. It doesn't have to be.
Where was it? Where was it? On the floor? Where did you have it? Did you have it here?
No,
did you summon it?
It's in the car now. I just need to have it in case I need to put it on. And so, yes, in that regard,
it's like a rally cap?
Yes. But we scored 4 runs in the first inning. I didn't need it.
And you're like, you know what? I'm going to leave that thing in the car.
We good.
We're good. We don't need that.
You don't need it.
But let me just tell you right now, This man, 35 seconds ago, just said he wasn't superstitious, okay?
I didn't think about it. This is the only thing I'm superstitious about.
Now he's doing damage control.
I've spent like 15 years with you in the last, 15 years. I've spent a lot of time with you, and I know that is not true. I can sit here and find the list, and you know what? And maybe after the next break, I'll actually have the list. A lot of hot topics to get to today, guys, here on Southeast Sports Plus. It's going to be a fun couple of hours, and a lot of different things throughout the SEC.
Yeah, Garrett Nussmeier looks to rebound against South Carolina coming up this week. Can Auburn finally end this streak of 8 straight wins in the Deep South's oldest rivalry, 130 games, 130th matchup between Auburn and Georgia this week? The latest on John Mateer. The Vegas line, some other people are saying that he could be under center in Saturday's matchup against the Texas Longhorns, and a former SEC standout takes the mic ahead of Thursday Night Football, but lots of former SEC players playing today. Here is a big game in a division in the NFC East between the Eagles and the Giants.
Cannot wait. We will hear from Jalen Hurts and kind of break down Thursday Night Football here in just a little while. We also have several big SEC talents right here in Next Star Nation that are going to join the show here over the next couple of hours. That includes our guy Brian Holland there in Baton Rouge holding it down with the Bayou Bengals. We'll hear from Mr. Holland in just a bit. Our guy Jack Patterson joining us from Columbus, WRBL, to talk all things Auburn, Georgia, the big rivalry game. Looking forward to that one, a night one there at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Cam Newton is making his return there to the Plains, so a lot to look forward to there. And Holden Cruzmark, as always, holding it down for us from OKC. We will check in with him, get the latest on John Mateer and much more from the Oklahoma Sooners here in just a bit. But going back to this game against Alabama and Missouri really quick, Gerhard, this line has been a little bit concerning, a little bit confusing. And I was not, just like you act like you aren't superstitious, at one time, I didn't read into the line very much until you taught me how to gamble. Now, I've not yet made a bet because I don't still trust it. However, I'll tell you this, it's made me start to wonder how much Vegas knows, and they don't miss often.
They don't miss often, and here's the thing. You could just gauge it. You literally just use the line to gauge where they think these two teams are. Now, I think that this is some love for Missouri, but also maybe a possible look-ahead spot for Alabama with the Tennessee game coming up next. And maybe that's the reason why the line is as small as what it is. It's 3.5 right now. I think by the time we get to game day, there'll be so much Alabama money, it might push it to maybe 4.5, 5.
I still think that's low for what the tradition of this game, in whatever capacity that it even, I mean, there was time that would have been like a cross rival or across a game back when we had the divisions. But this game is not one that really stands out as something where I'm going, okay, this is going to be some tough battle. I think that the possibility of it being a trap game, the question marks of what is Missouri, because they haven't played anybody yet, really. And will we see something different? And you've argued several times now that they have a guy in the backfield who might be the best in the league.
He's not only the best in the league, in my opinion, he's the best in the country. And the yards will tell you that. He's got 9 touchdowns. Ahmad Hardy, who played in the Sun Belt a year ago. He played at La Monroe for our buddy Brian Vincent.
That's what the Sun Belt is now. It's the feeder program for the SEC. They just go snatch all the, look, no fluff. Everybody.
And you don't know how good these guys are going to be when they do make that move to the Power 4. But he has been the best of the best. More than 700 yards this year. More than 100 yards in every game so far this season. If you're drawing up a way from Missouri to beat Alabama, is to keep Ty Simpson, Caden Proctor, Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, keep them off the field. You could do so with a good ground game, maybe that's what Coach Drink is saying. Is like, hey, look, we just want to shorten this game up as much as we can, and we have the running back to do it.
Obviously, Missouri 5-0 on the season. They have a win over South Carolina. They have that win over Kansas in the rivalry game that they kind of refueled back over there. So quality wins, so to speak, but are they battle-tested in the SEC? Maybe not yet. They will be on Saturday, no question. You got to add in the fact that it's an 11 a.m. kickoff, and everybody hates those. Who wants to tackle anybody at 11 a.m.?
I think that's
I have to tackle a 3-year-old at 11 a.m. I promise you, I don't want to do that. I definitely don't want to tackle a 200 and whatever pound, 300 pound guy either. So
I was listening to Kane Womack's press conference from Monday, and one of the things he brought up is something I never thought about, is that the 11 o'clock kickoffs on the road especially, it accelerates your entire calendar. It accelerates when you leave. It just throws you off, and football coaches and players are creatures of habit, and it just throws you off, and it doesn't seem like much between 2:30 and 11, or a 6 o'clock game and an 11 a.m. game, but it throws you off just enough, and just like we said, you hate them. We all hate them because why? You're barely still awake at that point.
Bro, when I played college basketball, I don't care if it was at Bowling Green or if it was at the Little Sisters of the Poor, whatever. Like when you wake up and you're like, all right, well, I got to go to the gym. It's cold out. You got to stretch the muscles. And it's just easier when you wake up in your own bed. You just make the little hop, skip, and a jump over to your stadium in your normal locker room. It's way easier when you're the home team. Nobody really wants to play at 11 a.m. The advantage is certainly with the team that is sitting there in their own stadium. Guys, we will have more on this Alabama-Missouri game coming up here in just a little while. Talks to coordinator there over Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator at Alabama. We'll have that coming up in just a little bit. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go to Baton Rouge, check in with our guy Brian Holland, and talk all things LSU. That's in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back in Southeast Sports Plus. Simone Patrick Gerhard joining you as we continue on preparing for Week 7 of the college football season. Several teams on the bye last week, now jumping back into play. This past week, Alabama picked up a big win, a gritty win over Vanderbilt, a very impressive Vanderbilt team under Diego Pavia. And with further ado, we're going to bring in our guy Scott Griffin from WIAT in Birmingham. Scott, before we look ahead to Missouri with Alabama.
Hold on, Simone. Hold on a second. Pete just texted me and said, you look like a slob, Griff, because I had a coat and tie on, and you've got a golf shirt on.
You know what? Listen.
Can I take that seriously? Or
what Pete doesn't know is that we are very laid back on this show, and if I could be in something athletic right now, I would be in a heartbeat. So that and Patrick has a golf shirt on.
Shorts on right now.
I got the golf shirt. It's okay.
Scott,
there you go. See that? I feel better.
Listen,
already.
Scott, I'm wearing tennis shoes right now. Let's just be honest, okay? Like, that is not a lie. I'm wearing tennis shoes. I have a dress on just because they tell me to. So that's where we're at. And it's very laid back on here on Southeast Sports Plus.
This time last week, I had a Cubs shirt on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, Gerhard's wearing a Cubs shirt. He forgot his T-shirt for today's game. So, yeah. Listen, we talked more baseball than we have talked about actual football on today's show. Scott, I'm sure you were there in Tuscaloosa. What were your takeaways from that win for Alabama over Vanderbilt?
Well, it was payback. Obviously, it was an easy deal. And then when Pavia runs his mouth like a clown, it just really makes it easy. Although Vanderbilt really played them pretty well. I thought they played them tough, obviously, there at the end. And the end result of the, difference in points certainly wasn't real because Jam Miller scored that late touchdown. But I thought Alabama played well. They looked like
real.
they kept their they kept their. Oh yeah, it was real for the bettors.
Yeah. If you're sitting on a 10.5 tickle like your boy,
Covered.
It was nice.
It was very real, Scott. That money's real. That money in his pocket's real. I'll tell you that right now.
Right. But, as far as the actual difference in the game, they were a couple of touchdown favorite, and they showed that. I thought they played pretty well. Look, to me, you've heard me talk about it, it's the attempts, right?
Yeah.
They had the rushing attempts on the road in the game before. And they only had 70-something yards, and everybody made a big deal. Oh, they didn't run the ball good. To me, it was about the attempts because the defense can't they've got to be aware of the run, even if you only get 2 yards. And then, of course, Saturday, Jam Miller has 136, first Bama guy since Jace McClellan in 23 to get 100 yards. So They had 26 attempts, I think, Saturday too. So 26 the last 2 weeks. If they continue to do that with the way Ty Simpson's playing, then they give him play action possibilities. This is a difficult team to beat.
No question. One of the big things for me was at the beginning of the season, they lost that game to Florida State, and everybody's blasting Kalen DeBoer, and they're saying that, you know, they're drawing these, in my opinion, very lazy comparisons of, oh, well, he's not hard like Saban is, and get on this guys and get. He just stayed on message, and it's been the exact same message, and his tone has been the exact same. What do you make of his demeanor, what he's been able to do during this winning streak, and some of the ways that his team has improved because of it?
I think he has stayed the course. I do think he has become hardened, maybe not to his team so much, but maybe from being surprised at the reaction to being 9-5 in his first 14 games from fans. Because, again, until you coach in the SEC and then at Alabama or Georgia or Florida, you just don't know. People can tell you, but you don't know. Now he knows, right? So he's done a us against them kind of mentality, as you guys know, us against the world, you know, keep out all the outside noise. And I think it's working with him. So he has gotten a little chip on his shoulder, in my opinion, from that aspect. Now, to your point, has he completely changed his coaching philosophy? No. Yeah. You know, I mean, he's still going about it the same way. But I think it's been a welcome change for them. And, you know, it's working so far, right? I mean,
sometimes it takes some time, Scott, for people. Yeah, sometimes it takes some time for people who aren't from here to realize that "bless your heart" doesn't actually mean "bless your heart." So you have to develop that thick skin pretty quickly, especially when it comes to the fan base, things like that. Let's take a look at these stats here from Ty Simpson, because this is a guy who is now in Heisman consideration. And I think that after the Florida State game, the massive overreaction that we saw there, now he's sitting here. He's been really, really good in moments of great decision making. He had that one interception, maybe getting a little too aggressive there in the red in Tuscaloosa this past weekend. But overall, those are pretty impressive numbers. Look at 11 passing touchdowns, 1,200 yards. I mean, he kind of cemented himself, at least in my mind, he cemented himself in I'm not going to say greatness, that's strong. He cemented himself as he is a very, very good quarterback in that win against Georgia. And when you go on the road and you win in Athens, that was such a difficult, hostile environment to play in. I felt good about Alabama against Vanderbilt simply because this guy looked like he was coming into his own. Now, a year 3 guy, first year starter, it just seemed as though he was getting more and more comfortable, and then he's really, really leading this team in a way where he has confidence too.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, the numbers when you showed them just then, the one that stands out to me is he has 27 incompletions. That's it.
Yeah, that's
27 incompletions. So yeah, he's killing on touchdown interception ratio plus 10 yardage. But the guy is so accurate with the football, making all the right decisions. Why would he not be a Heisman candidate? I mean, name me a quarterback playing better than that cat?
I agree.
I can't.
Because somebody said if his last name was Manning, he is the by far in a way favorite to be the Heisman winner. If his last name, but he has kind of popped up on the scene in this. Okay, he's been there in Tuscaloosa and just hiding in the depth chart for the quarterback situation. As we know, as we gear up for this Missouri game, this is not the Missouri of past. This is not a Missouri team that it's like, okay, this is a glorified bye week, so to speak, on your SEC schedule. Nobody knows that more than Kalen DeBoer. We'd have a chance to hear from him on what the rest of this kind of slate looks like. Let's take a listen before we dissect Mizzou.
Yeah, I think there's always been times where you look at a month and you're like, you know, back in whatever month in the spring, the schedule comes out and you're like, okay, that's going to be a grind. But you don't even look at it that way. You look at one game and you focus on that one game, and that's what we did against Georgia, and that's what we did against Vanderbilt, and now that's what we got to do against Missouri. You focus on only that game, and when you do it, all of a sudden you find yourself going through the month and you're like, okay, like we've gotten better, and okay, we got the win, and you know, again, just focusing on the process, focusing on what it has to look like as we refine everything we're doing. You know, just competing at the highest level. When you just focus on those things that you can control, the schedule, you know, you work through it one by one, and you know, you end up usually, if you got the talent and you got the people and you catch a break here and there, you end up on the right side of it.
So he's talking about a one game at a time mentality. The next game is Missouri, and if if I'm pointing out the pimple on Miss America or picking the lint off the Versace suit, it's Bama's run defense has not been great. And the running back coming into this game, in my opinion, the best running back in this football game was Ahmad Hardy from Missouri. How do you expect Bama's defense to really respond to this great ground attack for the Tigers?
I would think they'll put 7 or 8 in the box and have Hubbard a little bit closer to the line. He's kind of like a linebacker anyway, right?
Yeah.
So bring him a little closer, maybe play some 3 deep, show 3 deep, draw back in 4. They'll try to disguise some things. Who knows? If they're successful early, Missouri, they might put 5 linemen up there, put a couple of hybrids standing on the end. I'm not worried about that as much because that guy right there is playing so good. If Missouri scores a few points, I don't think they can outscore Alabama. And look, everybody's nervous about this game. I don't get it.
Scott,
I really don't get it. Have you seen who Missouri's played? Here's their game so
Eli
far.
Drinkwitz does not appreciate this.
UMass. You ready?
Yeah.
UMass.
Yeah.
South Carolina, who's not ranked anymore. Louisiana, Kansas, Central Arkansas.
Well,
Who have they played that's even of Wisconsin's caliber? Nobody. So everybody's, they're going on the road against Missouri. I think Alabama's clocking this team. I know the line's, 3 or whatever it is. I think Alabama's clocking this team by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think let me point to the fear what I think it is.
Let me use a stronger word, Gerhard.
Yeah.
They're skull dragging this team.
I love Scott.
So I think the fear comes from one place, and I agree with you. The line really doesn't make sense. To me, it comes from kind of actually 2 places. Number one, it's the 11 a.m. kickoff on the road. Are you
Saban
sleepy?
hates those.
And then secondly, Tennessee is 7 days later. I think it's the only thing. Like, hey, is this a look-ahead spot for Alabama? This might be a bit of a trap game? And with Missouri coming in with such a great offense, do they just keep Ty Simpson on the bench the whole time and just run Ahmad Hardy and then just try to control the clock? I think that's the place where fear comes from the Bama people.
Yeah. And they could do that because Alabama's done well at controlling the clock the last 2 games. So it could be one of those battles. To Simone's point, though, this isn't Missouri popping on the scene like Vandy did last year. They've been pretty good.
Yeah.
Eli Drinkwitz is a good coach. So I don't know if you can overlook them. And Tennessee has a loss, and it'll be a big game, but it's always a big game. So I don't know if you overlook to go looking at Alabama-Tennessee game. I don't think they'll make that mistake. And then the taste of Florida State is not far removed, let's be honest. So, it's not like it's 10 weeks from now. So I don't think that would happen. I again, got Alabama beating this team. I don't want to say easily because it is on the road at 11 o'clock, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of fingernail biting by fans in this game.
So tell me this, Scott. We didn't get a chance to talk to you ahead of Vanderbilt. Did you view Vanderbilt as a bigger threat just because Diego Pavia runs his mouth? Because here's the deal. Eli Drinkwitz is he'll go out there and he'll spew some stuff at media days, and he'll every now and then he'll pop off about something. But for the most part, he is kind of an even keel guy. He's one of those slow build guys. He's kind of what Lane Kiffin has become after Lane started to get, dial himself in a little bit. And let's not forget, Eli feels like, in a lot of ways, you look at last year's schedule, they were not too far off from being a team that could have been contending there for a playoff spot if the ball had maybe gone their way in the South Carolina loss. Obviously, they lost to Bama and A&M pretty handedly, but it's not like this team is that far away, whereas Vanderbilt just popped up. Everyone's so afraid of Vanderbilt, so I'm just wondering where the confidence comes from. I love it. I'm just wondering where it comes from there.
Well, I think Alabama's always had trouble. I think this was the first running quarterback that they've beaten in the last 6 attempts.
Yeah.
So running quarterbacks have given them trouble. They give everybody trouble. So I don't know if I buy into that stat. Running quarterbacks give everybody
Bama fans will look
trouble.
for something to complain about, Scott. You know that.
Right.
You know how y'all are.
Yeah, exactly. But Missouri's probably a better overall team, to your point. I get that. And to Gerhard's point, they've got a good running back, and they can run block very well. But I just think, you take away the run, you focus on it, you make them pass.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of trust Alabama's secondary. I don't know. But the biggest factor, if you're asking me what my biggest factor is, it's the fact that he played nobody.
Yeah.
I don't know how good they are.
You are not wrong about that.
But who wouldn't be undefeated against that if you're decent?
I mean,
they
no lies told.
had a tough game to get them ready for Alabama.
No.
Have they played anybody close to Alabama?
No. Yeah. No question about that, Scott. Meanwhile, on the other side of the state, Auburn gearing up for the Deep South's oldest rivalry after a bye week. There have been moments where we early on where we thought Auburn might be something special, and there've been a lot of more moments after that where we thought, okay, this is probably not going to trend in the right direction. We're going to take a really quick break, bring it back, Scott, to hate on the Tigers a little bit when we come back. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. We are still getting over the shock of Simone Eli being a New York Yankees fan. Our next first guest of the day, Pete Yannity from Spartanburg, South Carolina. You were kind of you were listening here in the background. You grew up in the New York area. You're not a New York fan though of either one of those teams. First of all, from a guy that's grown up in that area, what is this betrayal like from Simone, who walked in with a Mets jersey today, pulling out the Yankees hat after Aaron Judge's home run?
It's funny because unlike an Alabama-Auburn rivalry, which is about football, basketball, whatever, or in this state, South Carolina, Clemson, in the New York area, it's, they've got two of everything in the pros. For one thing, up there, and Simone will back me up on this, at least when I was growing up, just a couple of years earlier than when Simone was growing up, it's basically college football is just kind of a rumor. It's like, oh, Notre Dame's playing, or oh, Penn State, they're not far away, Army, Rutgers, whatever. I went to Yale games, so that kind of, makes me feel like I'm an upper crust kind of person. But it's like the pro teams, like there's no, like the Jets could care less if the Giants win or lose.
Right.
They just either hate their team or love their team, hate it more. And same thing. It's not like, oh, well, the Giants lost, but well, at least the Jets lost today. We feel better. There's literally, it's the most banal thing. I will say this, though, and I think Simone can back me up on this, too, is that the Yankee fan tends to align itself with the Giants fan. And, of course, the Mets and Jets tend to go together, even though the Jets haven't played on Long Island in 40 years. And I have many older sisters. And I come from a family of Pirates fans because of Western Pennsylvania ties. But one of my sisters over the years gravitated to becoming a Yankees and a Giants fan. And I can tell you that, let's see, how can I make this Southern and polite?
Bless her
she
heart.
can be annoying. She can be annoying every October and in some years, January, early February. Well, I get to hear that quite a bit.
Listen, I did not think we were going to open the show by talking about last night's remarkable moment there by Aaron Judge and Major League Baseball, but I'm not mad about this. I absolutely love this. Pete, welcome into the show, man. It's great to catch up with you today. Obviously, a big opportunity on the horizon for this South Carolina Gamecock team. What is kind of the state of the state right now for the Gamecocks, where they're staying right now?
I think their open day came at a good time, especially since they were able to get a win and stop the two-game skid that happened with losses to Vandy at home, that at Missouri. And coming out of Missouri, they rushed for -9 yards in that loss. That's a game they led in the fourth quarter. So the whole theme going into the Kentucky game, the last time they played a couple of Saturdays ago, was to run, run, run. And Shane Beamer actually emphasized that with just a little bit of extra passion in his voice at his weekly news conference this week going into the LSU game. And they ran the ball on 14 out of 15 plays. I counted it up, though. It was interesting. Only about half of their series in the game began with a running play. So it's not like they were coming out of the gate each time they got the ball back and running it. And they only averaged 3.7 yards. They did rush for in the neighborhood of 150 to 200 yards in the game, but they did emphasize it more. And Russell Faison scored a couple of touchdowns on TD runs, so they were in the red zone trying to pound it, and they also pounded another one as well, or at least Faison scored at least one of his on a run. But that's the big emphasis, is that they want to try to establish the run. It makes sense, and that makes you have to wonder if it's going to be Lenora Sellers tucking it and running it on a design play, or maybe makes you back off or load the box a little bit more, so therefore you can throw over top. So that's the big emphasis this week, and for the rest of the season with this grinder of a schedule ahead, they're going to try to run the ball. And keep in mind, and one of the things that people forget about, when Steve Spurrier got it going in South Carolina, he had a really talented team. Yeah. One of his most talented players when healthy was Marcus Lattimore, and they gave it to him 40 times to beat Florida in the Swamp in a memorable win way back in 2010. But you have to also realize, if you're South Carolina, you've got some talented players. You maybe don't have the depth that other teams has. Steve Spurrier tried to run the clock. When they upset Alabama, the game was played in like 2 hours and 38 minutes in real time. And I think Shane Beamer, having worked on the Spurrier staff and learning a lot there, his philosophy is also that, let's try to keep that clock moving. Yeah. Let's not try to keep time on the clock for the other offenses.
No question. I think this season has been so disjointed because of injury. Obviously, when Lenora Sellers goes down, they lose a couple of football games. Do they feel like now, after the bye week, there can be some consistency moving forward? I know injuries are something that can't necessarily prevent all in all, but do you feel like there's now some consistency, knowing that they can play well on special teams like they showed early, play well on defense like they showed last year and early this year, and on offense, as you just mentioned?
I think with any consistency on offense, they usually maybe lose the game at Missouri. But really, you look at it, and, with any consistency on offense, they probably would have beaten Missouri. And the game at Vandy, I should say, that's the one that maybe they still would have lost. But it's just special teams wise, who wouldn't want their special teams with what they've got in Vakari Swain and what they've been able to do in the return game? And in terms of defense, 3 defensive scores, I mean, and forcing turnovers like they always do. It's just, if Sellers getting hurt, that completely changes the Vanderbilt game. And who knows, Vandy may still come in and win that, because Vandy's really good. Sure. But you're leading the game. Sellers comes back to the Missouri game, and with any kind of run support, because he was slinging it around, he threw for 300 yards that night. You probably can go steal one on the road, and you're probably sitting at 4-1 instead of 3-2, and you feel totally different about everything.
Yeah, South Carolina has the great advantage of having to play in Death Valley twice, typically. Of course, that game against Clemson is going to be at home this year, but there's the fake Death Valley at Clemson, and then there's the real Death Valley in Baton Rouge. We did get a chance to hear from Shane Beamer about preparing for the crowd noise and what that is like there in Baton Rouge at LSU. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, starts in practice. We're, doing some crowd noise things in practice, which we always do when we go on the road, and did it when we went to Missouri, and did it today, and we'll do it tomorrow and Thursday in practice, just trying to, simulate crowd noise. But, you can't simulate 100,000+ probably heavily intoxicated Louisianans down there, and which is going to be awesome. I mean, that's what you want to coach in those environments. But I would say the same thing that Coach Kelly said about coming into Williams-Brice Stadium last year, which is a loud environment. Like, you can control the crowd with how you play, and that's what we need to focus on, is playing winning football offensively, defensively, and special teams, and being able to minimize the impact of that crowd. But, this isn't going into some 40,000 seat stadium. This is one of the great venues in all of college football. So we know it's going to be loud, and got to prepare that way during practice, and then play well on Saturday night.
No lies told there. There's no doubt. 100,000 plus strong. They will be heavily intoxicated. That'll be a normal Saturday, but it's certainly the Saturday coming off of a loss on the road at Ole Miss when this team is trying to have national championship implications, wanting to be there in the final game of the year. And right now under Brian Kelly, this team has been really, really good. Of course, they've had some injuries to their quarterback in Nussmeier and some question marks there. You got to imagine this is going to be a very, very well prepared LSU team coming off of a loss plus a bye, Pete.
Yeah, and I just think you've always got an advantage when you've got that bye week, and South Carolina will be coming off a bye as well, so something there. Yeah, they've won in the other Death Valley, the one in Clemson, their past 2 trips there. They only have the last time they won down in Baton Rouge all the way back to 1994, and they won that game on a rainy Saturday night on a late game trick play in which they were trying a field goal, and the holder, flipped it back, and I don't know if it was the kicker who threw it, but eventually the holder, a guy named Blake Williamson, caught it for a touchdown on that play and won. But, going on the road hasn't really been an issue for this team. I wouldn't be concerned about that. I'd be concerned about Harold Perkins, being faster than anyone you can get to the edge for LSU's defense. And I'd be concerned about the fact that LSU can come right at you and attack you. I think Nussmeier is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country out of the box. And statistically, there have been, he's hampered with injury, but I think he's really good. But I think that their whole deal is they can kind of control a game, and South Carolina's defense, which has been opportunistic, one thing you can do is pound it on them. Vanderbilt showed that. So that's why I think this is a tough matchup.
Do you think that this could be a springboard? They're able to get away in Death Valley to the other hard games that are on the schedule, because it is a gauntlet moving forward.
Yeah, it really is, and you see that it's nothing but ranked teams. And then after another open date, they've got another ranked team, Texas A&M, and that's another road game. So not only are they playing this gauntlet of 5 straight ranked teams, each of them in the the top 15 or so, but they also have to play 3 or 5 of them away from home. And, Oklahoma could have John Mateer back by the time that they come to Columbia in a couple of Saturdays. And, Alabama looks like they've gotten it figured out. So it's not like the 2 teams coming in or you'd feel good about, although South Carolina did beat Oklahoma last year out in Norman. I don't think in this league, though, you look at wins being springboards because, Auburn could beat Georgia down on the Plains this week.
Man,
but again,
lots of people keep saying that, Pete.
They've struggled against some ranked teams, and then they could turn around the next week. I mean, it's just that tough of a league. So whereas like in an ACC, a Clemson beating a North Carolina and then going and playing a Boston College, okay, those can be 2 wins that gain you momentum for play what looks like an improving SMU team.
If what you're trying to say is that the SEC is elite and the ACC is not, listen, look no further than the 2 people sit down on this show, except for the guy that's over there behind the scenes.
Sure, and I mean, if you had to play Florida State and Miami back-to-back weeks, then that's a different conversation. But I'm just saying the SEC does not offer, Arkansas this year, if you get them, you're feeling pretty good. That's a team that was
you never know.
They can figure
Listen,
it out.
Man, don't count Bobby out now. Here we go.
Sure. Yep. Kentucky, I think they caught Kentucky at a good time because you got a reasonably young quarterback in his first road start, and their whole goal in that game, Beamer talks about how happy he was that they kept it on the ground and ran it. Well, to me, the story of that game was they got in the head of a young quarterback and they completely flustered him, and it led to a scoop and score and a pick 6. So not that the scoop and score fumble was necessarily his fault, but I do think that, you go down and beat LSU, now you're feeling good. Last year, this is South Carolina team that after 6 games was 3-3, they rattled off 6 straight wins.
Yeah.
And they were as good as anybody. I mean, there were 3 or 4 teams that probably had a case that they should have been in the playoff last year, and South Carolina was certainly one of them. And, you can't do anything about the structure of things, but it was particularly irksome to them that they had just knocked off their arch rival on the road, and their arch rival gets help on that same day. They walked off the field with a loss, but Syracuse beats Miami, and that let Clemson get in, and then Clemson wins on a field goal at the final gun in the ACC championship to get into a playoff. And, it's a spot that under a different structure, South Carolina feels like they would have had. But back to the original point, if I'd say this, if they come out of this stretch of games 3-2, that's your springboard. 4-1, that's really a springboard. I just don't think you can say, hey, they got LSU and suddenly they're 4-2 and here they go. I just think it's each one is a mountain to climb.
Yeah. Pete Anady joining us from Spartanburg. Appreciate your time, sir. Looking forward to, I think, if nothing else, South Carolina has a lot of opportunities ahead. A lot of opportunities to prove that they're still in the conversation. So that will begin with the trip to LSU in Baton Rouge. And Shane Beamer knows it's a tough place to play, but looking forward to that game and then recapping that with you next week, Pete.
Yeah, I would say that South Carolina is one of those teams you don't want to play. They're just good enough to beat anyone on their schedule.
Yep.
And again, for Oklahoma and Alabama, that's not going to be any fun because one thing they've really done a nice job in the Beamer era is getting back a really electric home field advantage. That was missing for a while for a lot of reasons, but that's a tough place to go into now because you feel 80,000 folks right on top of you.
Yeah, that chicken will get you. That squawking gamecock thing that's going on, man. That thing is loud and annoying. There's no doubt about that. Good stuff, Pete Anady. Appreciate your time, sir. We will catch up with you next week.
Thank you.
All right, guys, just getting started here on Southeast Sports Plus. Next up, we're going to head to Birmingham to check in with Sports Director Scott Griffin over there at WIAT, talk all things Alabama and Auburn gearing up for Week 7 of the season. That's coming up in 2.5 minutes. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here in that middle part of the week where we're rewinding last week and looking ahead to this upcoming week. One of the big games from a week ago, not many games on the SEC schedule, Patrick, but one of the big ones was where College Game Day was in Tuscaloosa, where Alabama and Vandy met. We got a chance to catch up with Corey Curtis last week. Vanderbilt was still undefeated at the time, but played really well. And you've talked about this a couple of times here on the program. So let me give you a shout out because you've handicapped this team really well all season long and did so again.
Okay.
I know the scoreboard didn't reflect a Vanderbilt win, but it did, in my opinion, show marked improvement. What was your overall takeaways from the game there in Tuscaloosa?
Well, I think number one, Vanderbilt showed that they can win that game. I mean, I don't think the score reflects how close the game was. They had 2 turnovers in the red zone.
Yep.
And if you turn those 2 turnovers into points, it's obviously a completely, different football game. Bama gets the high marks for getting it done. Absolutely. But if you're Vanderbilt, you're thinking the only thing that stopped us was ourselves. I think they're going to regret, getting away from the run. They averaged 7.5 yards a carry on 18 carries. So why in the world don't you have more carries than 18 carries when you're averaging 7.5 yards a carry? And, I know everybody would like for Diego Pavia to have an ego check. Maybe that's a little bit of the ego check, he needs, if he needs one. I don't know. But, he's the last one who I thought would cost them the football game. And, he cost them the football game. With those 2 turnovers. So that was unfortunate for them. But, I think there's a lot more that's really good for Vanderbilt. That's obviously a very tough place to go play. But my overwhelming, sentiment from that game was watching the Alabama players and the fans and how excited they were to win that game.
Yeah.
I can't ever remember them being that excited to beat Vanderbilt. You know, that meant that Vanderbilt team had become something worthy of celebrating beating. And I don't know if that acknowledgement means anything to anybody else, but I think they understood when it was over that, you know, it could have been 2 in a row.
Yeah, I think anytime that you're reinventing yourself, whether it's a human being or it's a team, there are those moments where it's like, okay, this is different. This is different from what we've seen before. This is different from the way that it's looked before. And you spoke about Diego Pavia, and he's such an amazing figure, and I think there will be a great documentary 10 years down the road about his life and about his gravitas. But one of the big things, it's kind of twofold, because that confidence and that bravado and that beating the chest, to me, is what kind of anchors what this team is like. Absolutely. You know, going forward one week to another. But at the same time, like you said, when you have a fumble and you have an interception, as that graphic showed, it does cause the other team to celebrate a little bit louder. The decibels to go up a little bit louder. Talk about that juxtaposition there with Diego Pavia.
You know, I don't think you get one without the other.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so I think, you know, you've got to let him be him, because, you know, let's face it, you know, when Tiger Woods tried to become this, you know, kinder, gentler person, he was not the same golfer. All right. And, you know, Diego Pavia, you know, he look at him. He is not your prototypical college quarterback. What's he, about 6 foot, 200 pounds?
Right.
But he believes in himself 900% with everything that he does, and it's infectious to everyone. So you don't want him to get away from that. I'm sure you could say, well, you don't want him to say this and you don't want him to say that. Guys, regardless of what he said going into this game, Alabama had this game circled on their schedule. There's not anything more you could say that was going to make Alabama want to win this game more.
Right.
You know, if anything, he's just propelling his guys further along. Hey, we're going to go down there. We're going to win. We're not afraid of this thing. So I always say, if you need motivation to win, you're in the wrong sport.
Yeah.
All right.
100%.
And so I think that too much can be made up of that. And I think, you know, when it comes to players like Diego Pavia, you have to embrace all of it. All right. Because if you try to change it, you're going to change all of it.
Right.
And you don't want to change that.
Yeah.
You know, it's the best thing Vanderbilt's had forever.
Absolutely. Another mark of a really good team, though, Corey, is the ability to bounce back. And so for every team that can resettle themselves after a setback, Nick Saban about this all the time. I feel like Nick Saban's best teams were the ones that came right after a loss. With this Vanderbilt football team, with the expectations so sky high, now there's a bit of a breather, an off week this week before another gauntlet next week, going to Death Valley or hosting LSU there in a big game there at home. What's this like? This week like as they get prepared for that one, both putting that one to bed and then getting ready for LSU?
Well, it's a pretty good time for a bye. You go down and play Alabama. It's a chance for them to get healed up a little bit after what was their biggest test of the season, and, you know, to go back and see what they did right and what they did wrong, and know that they're going to play a team that really needs to win this football game. I mean, this is a must win for LSU, and it's kind of a must win, you know, for them, because whoever loses this game is now squarely behind the playoff 8 ball. LSU has South Carolina this weekend, and that's a must-win game for South Carolina. So South Carolina is going to come at them with everything. And then the week after this, LSU, but after they play Vanderbilt, they got Texas A&M.
Yep.
So you risk a look-ahead game, you know, for Texas A&M, but they can't afford to. They're not good enough. You know, obviously LSU is very good, but their offense has not been what they expect it to be.
Right.
And I expect the game with LSU to be a very close football game in Nashville. And I think it will, like the Alabama game, it will probably be decided by turnovers.
Corey, I look ahead while we're on the topic of the bye week. After the bye week, you host LSU, host Missouri, and then you go to Austin, and then you host Auburn. How much of an advantage do you think that those LSU and Mizzou games are in Nashville rather than on the road?
Well, I mean, they're always in advantage. Last year they went to Mizzou and lost in overtime. I mean, that's a game that they would like to have really, really had back. I think the LSU game is the big one. I mean, Death Valley is a unique place, especially. I'm sorry, I'm very popular in getting.
Hey, if that's Theo Vaughn or Pavia's mom, you know, you can
Johnny Manziel.
I had to tell Pavia's mom to stop calling. So, you know. Death Valley is a very, very tough place to play, especially if it's a night game. It's crazy. So I think that one is very, very important. I don't think anybody's going to confuse Mizzou for toughest elements to play in college football.
Right.
All right. So I think that's very big. And I think, it's very interesting with Texas on there. What is Texas? Who's quarterbacking Texas at that point?
Right.
And because, when a team gets struggling, now they're looking over their shoulder and look, the boogeyman's out to get them. What's wrong with us? And you can get them down. And if you remember, Vanderbilt almost beat Texas last year.
That's right.
They had the Longhorns on the rope so they're not going to be afraid to go down there. And if they stick with Arch Manning, I mean, the young man's got to play better.
Yeah.
And he knows that, and they know that. And it's tough to go away from what was built up in the offseason down there.
Yeah.
But, they went from number 1 to unranked. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Yeah. And what, less than
Penn State.
About 4 or 5 weeks or so.
I haven't seen something like that since UNC basketball a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like the same story.
Right. Just like literally everybody's projections are here. But this, like they said, that's the reason why they play the games. You mentioned rushing, and they were able to rush against Alabama for 7 yards a carry. It was really led by Cedric Alexander. What does he bring? Yeah, very good player. And it kind of almost introduced himself, I think, in a lot of ways to everybody. I think everybody knew about Eli Stowers going into it. But do you think that he's a guy that they will rely on? Because like you said, he looked like he was moving really well and cutting through that Bama defense.
Well, I mean, he's the lead dog, but it's a really big pack.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a lot of people that they don't mind giving the football to.
Right.
And I've banged on this the whole way. They have the best offensive line I've seen Vanderbilt ever have.
Right.
And so I don't want to say it doesn't matter who you give the ball to, but they have more talented guys back there than they've had before. They have more speed back there than they've had before. So if these guys up front can continue to block, they're all going to be pretty good. And I think the other thing that, helps a guy like Alexander is you have to account for Pavia in the rushing game. Right. I don't know what the team numbers are now, but Pavia was still their leading rusher going into last week.
Right.
And largely that's because they'd spread out the carries so much. Otherwise it would be Alexander. Alexander's, like I said, he's the lead dog back there. He's very good, but they have a lot of other good players that they don't mind giving the ball to.
Absolutely. Speaking of good players, there's a former Vanderbilt Commodore that's headed back to Vandy. I don't know if you saw this news, and sorry to spring this on you if you haven't. But Jordan Matthews is coming back to be a consultant. Obviously, 10 years in the NFL. How important is that to be able to have a guy that's not necessarily their age, he's older than these guys, but he's still young enough to understand what college football is, the trials and tribulations that they have to go through, and to be able to have him in-house with Clark Lee?
Well, I mean, look, you always want to have people, if you're a school like Vanderbilt, you want to have people that Vanderbilt is important to, especially in this NIL era where there may not be the allegiance to schools that there used to be. Kids hop around so much with the transfer portal, some people to help breathe in some of that, love of university and importance of university. But I also think, here's a guy who made some money in the NFL.
Yeah.
This is the first time you're having to deal with players who have money for the first time. And this is a guy who can relate to them and tell them, guys, I know you think you're going to make this money all your life. You're probably not.
Yeah.
So let's sit down and talk about what you're doing with it. I mean, like Pavia, I hear he's in a 7-figure payday, and he should be. But he may never see that again.
Right.
I mean, he's got to be smart with that. This might be his opportunity for lifetime money, to make a difference. And so when you've got a guy who's kind of been through that process, to talk through those guys, I think that can be beneficial as well.
Absolutely. And speaking of the NFL, before we let you go, I have to talk literally one thing about the current NFL, and you know what? All the maybe some sadness that came after Saturday with Vanderbilt, it was all corrected on Sunday as your Tennessee Titans got a big win against the Arizona Cardinals, first one of the year. What did you make of that crazy football game?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. So I watched the first half. And I was like, it's the same old garbage I've been watching all year.
Nobody blames you.
Nashville SC, our MLS team, just won the U.S. Open Cup.
Oh, nice.
And so during the second half, they were having a U.S. Open Cup trophy celebration with their fans, and I had to go over and cover that and miss the second half of the game. Now, I've since watched the second half of the game. So
right.
I've seen it. But so I'm over there, and I'm kind of watching it on my phone while the celebration is going on. And as Nashville SC hits the stage, this Titans rally starts. And so like all these good vibes at Geodis Park are going on, and everybody's getting hyped up, and the Titans rally is going on. And all of a sudden it's like 21-19, and this double rainbow comes up over Geodis Park, and Cam Ward, like 30 seconds later, hits Calvin Ridley for this 30-yard strike into field goal range. And I'm like, what is happening? Do we get to have nice things again? I'm not used to this. No, I'm not used to nice things. And believe me, there isn't one person in all of Nashville or all of Tennessee who felt confident about Joey Sly hitting that 22-yard field goal.
No.
We were all ready for it to hit the upright, okay? All of us. So there was a big sigh of relief. Brian Callahan is a very nice man, and you like to see good things happen to good people. It has been a very, very tough go for him.
Yeah.
There is a lot of blame to go around. There has been a lot of atrocities in building this roster over the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
There's a reason they're on 3 GMs in like 5 years, because the failures of the last 3 years of the John Robinson era were massive. And then you had the Vrabel year and the Rand Carthon year. I mean, they have so few cornerstone pieces that they've got in the draft in the last 5 years. It's like you should be able, like your sister or your daughter or your grandmother or whoever. I guess I'm sounding sexist. I apologize. Fills out the NCAA bracket pool and picks the team by colors or mascot.
Yeah.
You would think you could draft like that and do better than the Titans have done.
Yeah,
the last
that's true.
Years.
That's so true. And it's
just throw darts at a dartboard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't do worse. You couldn't do. Look, 3 years in a row, they drafted in the first round Isaiah Wilson, Caleb Farley, and Traylon Burks, who just got released moments ago.
Woo. Yeah.
I mean, that's the worst string of first-round draft picks that I would challenge anyone to go against.
That's a horrible hit percentage. I think we hit better in Major League Baseball.
Well, that's zero. That hit percentage is zero.
Yeah, exactly. Corey, always appreciate your time, your insight, your hilarity. It's always great. Enjoy that Titans win, and we'll check back in with you once again with the Vanderbilt Commodores as they have another huge game coming up in a couple of weeks.
All right, I'll tell Diego's mom next time she calls to you guys.
You're the best, man. Corey Curtis over there in Nashville celebrating a big dub on Sunday, alleviating some of the pain from Saturday, Patrick. And a really good time there to be in Nashville. I think it's always been a good time.
I still haven't been. That's on my bucket list. I got to go once.
You got to go.
I never thought I'd be going to try to see a Vanderbilt football game, but I mean the Commodores got me thinking. I want to see a Vanderbilt football game. I always thought it'd be baseball, but
Yeah, no. You go to a football game, who knows? You might be a part of a sinking of the goalpost in the river. You never know with Vandy Gays. Things get crazy in Nashville in more ways than one. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we check in with our good buddy Parker Reed. We'll talk Texas A&M, one of the top 10 teams in the country. We check in with the Aggies next.
Outbound transmission?
Affirmative.
Crew ready?
Check.
Signal lock?
Check.
Downstream stations online?
Linked and locked.
Let's light this candle.
Flame on.
In 3, 2, roll show open.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. We kick off hour number 2 with some big news out of the SEC. South Carolina and Miami are mutually agreeing to schedule their home-and-home series. This, of course, comes in the wake of the new 9-game SEC schedule. The way the 9-game format will work out was everybody has to play 9 games, 3 permanent opponents, 3 annual opponents as they're calling it, but also 1 other Power 4 opponent. And of course, if you just take a look at those 2 teams, South Carolina already plays Clemson, so that will be their Power 4 opponent. Miami already plays Florida State and Florida as well. So it makes sense while these games are getting canceled. But Patrick Walsh, to me, I find it really interesting. We're seeing more and more of this. I think Alabama and West Virginia has already done the same thing. And while it does stink on one hand, you kind of get it from the program's perspective. Like, hey, we already have a loaded schedule. Why load it down even more?
And I think we kind of knew this was coming once the SEC announced that it would move to a 9-game schedule.
Right.
Obviously, the talk all offseason was the SEC trying to prove to people that it didn't need to move to a 9-game schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that has changed now. But, I mean, you mentioned it well. Miami, South Carolina, the latest. Alabama, West Virginia, we found that out about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
But how about this? Florida having to cancel 3 future home and homes.
Wow.
Arizona State, NC State, and Cal. So 2 ACC opponents. You know, the all-coast conference now, as I like to call it, with Cal down at the bottom. And then Arizona State. So, I mean, it's really unfortunate that we don't really see these as many of these matchups anymore.
Right.
But at the same time, it's also good to see these big programs play group of 5 schools because it helps the group of 5 schools tremendously and the FCS schools.
Right. And on one end, you're like, hey, yes, we're getting great SEC games. But then on the back end, you're like, man, some of these creative matchups are going by the wayside. We saw this past year, Alabama playing Wisconsin. That was a home and home. If that home and home is scheduled in 28-29 or 29-30, we probably don't get it. They'll probably cancel that game because of the home and homes or because of all the scheduling that you have to do in the SEC. But keep in mind, every SEC school still has to schedule a Power 4 school. This is just to make sure that you're not overloading your schedule because just like we talked about with Florida, Florida already plays Florida State. Florida will already have played Miami, and Florida's going to play a 9-game schedule. So it's like, so you're going to overload that with an Arizona State on top of that. So I guess I kind of get it. But, I mean, just picturing in your head South Carolina and Miami on the same field seems pretty cool.
I mean, I don't think Carson Beck is going to be there next year. I don't think
who
he
knows
can. I don't think he can, though.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows these days, honestly. But it would have been cool had he been able, or I'm just assuming that he's not going to be there next year.
Same.
If for some reason he was, it would have been really cool to see. You know, he already took down an SEC opponent this year.
Yep.
Let's see if he can do it again.
Do another one, yeah. At Williams-Brice Stadium, that game would have been at Williams-Brice too, which would have been a really cool SEC environment. Meanwhile, Andy Staples, college football expert, was in Mobile here recently. Simone Eli got a chance to catch up with him one-on-one.
Here at Moe's Barbecue downtown for the 68 Ventures Bowl 1st and 10 Club. Excited to be chatting with Andy Staples of On3. Andy, it's a wild time in college football right now, man. The top 25 poll week 7 looks completely different than it did when we kicked this thing off.
Yep.
What do you make of this?
I am just amazed, and I mean, I feel dumb because all of the teams I thought were good in the preseason turned out to not be good, but I'll take it. I'll take dumb and fun because this season's been so fun so far. Like, who in the world would have thought that Penn State would go to UCLA and lose to an offensive coordinator who got hired on Tuesday? Like, it's crazy. And then Texas going to Florida. You know, it's interesting because I live in Gainesville. We talked all offseason, people in town about, okay, they might be able to beat Texas. Nobody thought they'd lose to USF and LSU and Miami and then beat Texas. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So it really shows that the parity, that at least at the top, it's the group of 5 teams don't benefit from this. But if you are in the Big Ten, if you're in the SEC, you got all this money to spend on players, you can be good. I mean, look at Indiana. Yeah. 2 years ago, the thought of Indiana being really good at football was foreign. Yeah. They're awesome. Yeah. And so in the SEC, I'll give you an example. Arkansas just fired Sam Pittman. And people will say, well, yeah, but you got to play against LSU and you got to play against Auburn and Alabama and Tennessee and Texas and Oklahoma. True. But and I said the same thing on my show, and I had a commenter on YouTube hit me with this on a live show, and he goes, what'd you say about the Ole Miss job when Lane Kiffin was hired? I was like, I said the same thing about the Ole Miss job before Lane Kiffin was hired. And it turns out if you hire the right person, in this era, you can win everything. Yep,
you're absolutely right. Andy, I want to talk about the Florida game, of course, against Texas. Is it possible that a receiver entering the chat can revitalize the confidence in a quarterback, can make this much of a difference in what Dallas Wilson was able to present to the Gators offense?
Now, everybody in Florida has known about Dallas Wilson for a long time. Guys from Tampa, he was going to Oregon. And also, can we talk about how unfair it would have been if he'd wound up at Oregon with DeCorian Moore?
Oh, no.
That would have been completely unfair. So, credit to Florida for enforcing a little fairness and flipping him away from the Ducks. Yep. But yeah, they've been waiting in Gainesville a long time for his debut. It was tough watching him deal with the injury and think, okay, this offense could look completely different if this 6'3", 215-pound freak of nature was on the field. And you saw it with the touchdown he scored down the right sideline where, he catches it, he tiptoes and he spins, and nobody that big should be able to do that without going out of bounds. I mean, if I caught that ball, which I couldn't even catch, but I would have just fallen out of bounds. I'd just fallen over. And he's just very nimbly working around people and then taking off and outrunning them. It does make a big difference. Like one receiver, especially when you have some other talented ones, can make a huge difference for a quarterback. Now, it helped DJ Lag with it. That was the best game Florida's offensive line has played all season as well. Yeah.
I want to bring back into in-state here. Alabama gets it done against Diego Pavia and the hoopla and the Johnny Manziel and just everything. The college game day. I mean, college game day, Alabama and Vanderbilt. This really must be 2025.
Yeah, we were through the looking glass.
No question. When you look at that game, is Alabama undefeated, 2-0 in the SEC? Does that give you confidence that the Tide is a playoff team, a lock? I mean, what's your thoughts on what that can look like down the line?
I wouldn't say a lock, but I'm slowly forgetting the Florida State game and the way they looked in the Florida State game, because they haven't played like that at all the rest of the season. Yep. And, we knew they were going to get up for the Georgia game. They played a great game against Georgia. I still believe Vandy's better than they were last season. And I think the way Alabama beat them, it was really impressive. It's not just, you just beat Vandy. It was, no, you took it to Vandy in the second half, and that is a good team that's going to win more games. So, unfortunately for Alabama, their schedule just happens to be really, really freaking hard. And so, now they got to go to Missouri, sleepy 11 a.m. local kickoff, biggest game that's been in Columbia, Missouri in a long time, and they're good. Ahmad Hardy's maybe the best running back in the SEC. Jam Miller may have something to say about that. But we haven't seen Bo Prabula in a big game like this. We've seen him against Kansas and South Carolina, and he's looked pretty good, but this is Alabama. So this is going to be the one. And just where it falls in the schedule for Alabama, because you've had these two incredibly physical games, it's hard to get up every time. And Missouri will have that point in its schedule later, but it gets Bama now after an open date. And Alabama fans, if we go back to like 2010, they remember everybody used to come off an open date against Alabama. Oh, yeah. It's no fun. But I think this is one, if Alabama can go win this game, I don't even know if they have to beat Tennessee, but it would help if they could. If they go win this game, I feel very confident that they wind up in the playoff.
Yeah. Speaking of coming off an open date, Auburn has an opportunity here, obviously, in a rivalry game. And right now, I think that everyone wants to really know, okay, is this Auburn team going to get things turned around under Hugh Freeze? Do they have a line protection? Do they have a quarterback who can get rid of it and figure out what he needs to do back there? Can you answer any of those questions for me?
So this is the most confusing game of the week for me. Yeah. So Georgia can't rush the passer, can't get any pressure on the passer, and Jackson Arnold holds the ball too long. Yeah. So you tell me, Simone. Yeah, we have a resistible force versus movable object situation. Yeah. You tell me, Simone, which one will it be? Will Georgia finally get pressure because Jackson Arnold holds the ball too long, or will Jackson Arnold have time to throw because Georgia can't get pressure? And that really will determine the game. Like, which of those two things happens will decide who wins.
Yeah. Speaking of Jax Arnold getting sacked, the memories of what occurred in Norman will probably never leave my brain. So you watched it firsthand. Yeah. Speaking of Oklahoma, right now a different team without John Mateer. I think that we didn't really know what he would be, but he proved to be incredible there with the Sooners, no question. When you look at this Red River rivalry, what do you think about these two teams? Because, man, Texas is clearly not the number one ranked team in the country.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Texas's offensive line has not been as good as we thought it was going to be. And then obviously Arch Manning has not been as good as we thought. But what surprised me against Florida was how well Florida moved the ball on the ground against Texas. I thought this defense would be able to stuff Florida's running game, and they did not. I mean, Jaden Ball was moving it really well. Now, I don't know if that means Oklahoma can move it well against them on the ground because even before Mateer got hurt, they had trouble generating a non-John Mateer running game. But Michael Hawkins Jr., who started this game last year, has a much better O-line in front of him and a much better group of receivers because they were all hurt last year. The problem is I don't know how well he'll do against Texas's defense, but I also think Arch Manning is going to get absolutely terrorized by Oklahoma's pass rush.
Yeah. Texas A&M, Mike Elko, I think, said maybe a week or two ago that he wants people to start believing that they're a national championship contending team. Are they that? Are the Aggies capable of really doing this?
They certainly look like it. And this is the part, in the Kevin Sumlin years, this is the part of the season where Texas A&M would just fall off a cliff. Yeah. I don't get that sense from Mike Elko and company. And it's interesting because they've got Florida coming. And if Florida plays the way they played against Texas, there's a really good chance Florida can beat A&M in this game. Sure. But this is the game I circled for Florida before the season when I said, I don't know if it matters how many games Florida has won. Like if Florida is 5-0 going into this game, that's a tricky spot on the schedule to have to play Texas A&M. But it's kind of flipped because A&M's been so good. But I do think they did better in the portal getting receivers than anybody. Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion, best portal duo of receivers in the country. And they've kind of unlocked Marcel Reed, and it doesn't hurt that Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens average, I think, between them 6.5 yards a carry.
Yeah. I'm stepping away from the SEC a little bit. I know that we talked about Indiana. All right, Indiana is kind of like the Vanderbilt of the Big Ten. This is a team that no question this would never be in actually happening unless you enter Kirk Cignetti in the NIL era. And then you look at Oregon.
Have you Googled
it? I love people that just want to play the role. You gotta have this. You gotta have guys like
awesome.
That.
It's perfect.
The villain role or whatever. Call it whatever you want. Personalities for us. I mean, it's great from the media's perspective. But when you look at him, you look at Dan Lanning. They're in ways. They're kind of similar. They're both kind of head game. What does this game tell you?
I can't wait. Yeah. Because all we've said about Indiana throughout last year and through this year's, well, when they play somebody, and then we have the Ohio State game and the Notre Dame game from last year as our evidence that, when they play somebody, okay, they're playing somebody this week.
They are.
I think Indiana's better than they were last year. Does it mean they can go to Eugene and win? I don't know. But if they play a competitive game in Eugene, they're going to win most of the rest of their games. They're probably going to be a playoff team again. And I think people will look at them a little bit different. Now, if they win in Eugene, everybody will look at them differently. Yeah. But just make this interesting, and I think people will look at you differently.
Yeah, the NCAA recently had some new rules, some new decisions made to kind of try to put the toothpaste back in the tube, so to speak, on the NIL stuff. Is there any undoing the free agency, just where we're at, the kind of like chaos that it currently exists, or are we just going to be sitting in court, because of the changes? What does it look like down the line?
Well, you've got the bills in Congress that I don't think are going to pass. The SCORE Act is the one the SEC and the Big Ten want you to tell your congressperson to pass. That would give the schools a blanket antitrust exemption that even the railroads don't get.
Sure.
So I don't think that's going to pass. It will not beat. They might pass it in the House. Won't beat the filibuster in the Senate. They can fix this. They can have rules that they can enforce. They can have contracts. They just have to choose to collectively bargain with the players and do what all the other sports that make lots of money do. And then if they have a CBA, then the players will sign contracts. You can have transfer rules. You can have actual penalties. Well, I guess we'll see with the NBA, but.
Looks like we're going to get kicked off the stage here. So, Andy Staples, appreciate your time.
Thank you,
sir.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your insight, as always.
College football expert Andy Staples in Mobile, Alabama. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we head over to Nashville. Vanderbilt Commodores looking to bounce back after losing in Tuscaloosa. We'll catch up with our good buddy Corey Curtis next.
Welcome back in Southeast Sports Plus, rolling along in our several games on the SEC slate this week, and a lot of injuries that have been some of the high-profile headlines right now in Week 7 of the season, Gerhard.
Yeah, they have, and I think when you take a look at this thing, big picture, the injuries have really kind of compounded when you talk about quarterbacks. Obviously, Garrett Nussmeier, but then the big one with being John Mateer, because the Nussmeier one, it has led to their first loss of the season.
Yeah.
Will the Mateer one do the same? That's going to be interesting as they face Texas this week.
Yeah, and our guy Holden Cruzmark, always holding it down for us in Oklahoma City. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, Holden. Of course, all eyes are on that QB1 spot there for Oklahoma. What you thinking? What are you hearing? What's the word going into this game?
Well, all of the things that you hear right now is that Mateer is pushing to play in this game, which makes sense if you're a competitive athlete, that you want to be able to play in, basically their biggest game of the year, the biggest rivalry. And, if things go well for Mateer, this may be his only chance that he gets to play. He might be heading to the NFL after this. You never know if things go well. So I'm sure he knows he wants to play and everything, but to me, I just don't really see it because, it was 2 weeks ago he broke his thumb against Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just don't, and it's it's his throwing hand too.
Right.
I just can't imagine that you're able to, play quarterback amazingly with a thumb that just got surgically repaired less than 2 weeks ago.
I worry less about how to play quarterback in terms of throwing as much as I would protecting the quarterback and him not suffering another injury. And maybe it's because I have broken my thumb and I've broken my finger and both are still not straight. And I think for me, just from experience, the re-injury possibility on one of your fingers is so high, and they're in there. You put the splints and the screws. I don't know exactly what he had. I'm not a surgeon either, but I can tell you that the margin of error, the possibility of hurting, re-injuring something, and then just putting yourself backwards a lot is really, really high. So I would just be stunned, G, if this guy Holden, if he was in this game.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And did you get Dr. Shin to do your thumb surgery?
I know, but I wish I would have, because honestly, the guy who did it the first time, well, this is what my middle finger looks like. I mean,
oh, wow.
I know it ain't good. It's not straight. So, and then my thumb is, it's just it quit growing because the growth pretty broke. So it's a little bit smaller than the other one. So, that's college basketball for you. But yes, I just think that there's a lot of concern as to if he gets drilled and he's going down, and it's his body up against his hand. You can pat it as much as you want to pat it. The truth of the matter is, if you get crushed by somebody, especially with this defense that they're going up against, that's not a fun time.
Yeah, I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't risk it, because especially in this era of college football where you can take on a loss or even two, maybe even three, and still be able to make the playoff. And so I just don't really see the benefit, other than I know this guy really wants to play in the game, and he's going to be pushing for it. So it's going to be hard to say no to him, because, at the end of the day, you have to trust that he knows his body and what, he's capable of, and the fact that he feels confident he wouldn't re-injure it. But you also kind of have to protect him from himself too. You have to understand that, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You got to be able to, have Mateer available later in the season. And if you are able to make the playoff, you'd like to have him play in the playoff for you. So I don't see the real benefit. And just the way that Texas has played this year, I don't know that you're necessarily super concerned that you can't beat them with Michael Hawkins at quarterback.
Right.
Because Texas hasn't really shown you oh, wow, we have to play perfect and we need Mateer to be able to beat them. They've looked vulnerable this year. And their offense isn't going to necessarily put up a ton of points, especially against this OU defense. So, I think Michael Hawkins could win a game where it's 21-17, 17-14, something like that. And, really just rely on this defense to win you the game. I don't think that's a bad game plan. And, obviously Hawkins played last year and they didn't score a single touchdown in that game, but the circumstances are a little bit different. He's got a lot more receivers, a better O-line, a better offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, all of those things. Maybe I'm wrong, but I trust Michael Hawkins to be able to go out and beat Texas this week if that's what they decide to do.
And it's obviously a new play caller from this time last year when Michael Hawkins Jr. Had a different play caller than Ben Arbuckle. How do you think Arbuckle will handle this? Obviously, Kent State last week. I mean, you're not going to get anything from that. But how do you think that he calls this game in this situation with Hawkins running it back there against Texas?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting because I think both teams will want to kind of stack the box and make these quarterbacks beat you if it is Hawkins versus Arch, because neither one has necessarily wowed you with their arm in the games that you've seen them play. So, and I believe that Arch is the leading rusher for Texas, and Mateer's the leading rusher for OU. And, if Hawkins was playing, he'd probably be the leading rusher as well. So I think both teams will want to try to stack the box, and that'll be interesting because you'll get a lot of one-on-one matchups. So it'll be interesting to see if Ben Arbuckle wants to take some shots, let Hawkins kind of throw it deep to some of your receivers. They got some burners, and, Isaiah Satania and Deion Burks, they've got some speed. Maybe you let them go throw some go balls and see what happens. And maybe that's how they get their touchdown. I remember, in the game they won against Auburn last year at Auburn, Michael Hawkins had that nice deep ball to J.J. Hester that set up a touchdown. He can throw it. Maybe you don't have as much confidence with him as you do Mateer, but that'll be the interesting thing to me. And I think if you are Arbuckle wanting to call plays in this game, you maybe try to lean more towards the run, some quarterback options, things like that. Really get the RPO game. Try and get him some easy completions early to build the confidence and, see what happens. Maybe test the Texas defense and see how much they're going to play up and creep up on that line of scrimmage. But yeah, I mean, Arbuckle's shown he's pretty creative at times when he wants to, whenever they're not playing Kent State and Illinois State.
Well, hold on a minute, Holden. All I'm gonna say is we had a Jaden Ott sighting. The guy is living, breathing in Norman, and he speaking of different weapons and folks that we could possibly see. And I listen. I tried to challenge you on this, and I said, dude's just gonna, he's gonna say I'm out. Just go ahead, redshirt me. I'm gonna go do something different. And you said, nah, we're gonna see him, and we did. What's the latest on this guy?
Yeah, no, I mean, really, you were right though. If he didn't play at all against Kent State, what you'd have to be thinking, what's the point of staying around? Because if they don't trust me enough to play against Kent State, how are they going to trust me enough to play against Texas?
But was that the holdup, Holden? Was it because that they didn't trust him? I mean, what was going on? I still is this like the mystery of the world?
That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
They don't trust him to what? What are they going to do? Go punt it? Is it he's going to drop it? I mean, what do they think he's going to go punch an official? What is it that they think he's going to do that they don't trust him to do if they can't even put him out there to try?
Yeah, well, I remember from earlier in the season, one of the things with Javonte Barnes that they noted is that he's really good at pass blocking. And I think that was maybe one of the areas that Jaden Ott wasn't picking up was maybe the pass blocking element of it. But also the guy's so dynamic, you kind of just have to roll
him somewhere
with
else.
it.
Yeah, I mean, find something else to do. Don't block. Yeah, just put him in some sort of scheme.
He was banged up in fall camp too a little bit, and so they just, I don't know. It was the weirdest thing. It didn't really make any sense to me at all. But we finally saw him, and I mean, it wasn't like he had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I mean, we saw him, and he ripped off a couple nice plays, and I just think you're going to need him to be able to beat Texas.
Was there any availability with him after the game, or has there been is he now going to be there lead back, and they're just going to he's rolling out there as doing all of the interviews? I mean, listen, you all act like that's crazy. We've seen it before where a guy doesn't play, and then he's randomly gets inserted into this game against Can't Read, Can't Write, and then all of a sudden here he is. Now he's the star weapon. I mean, is he going to come back, or is he just chilling, or what?
We actually saw it a couple of years ago at OSU with Ollie Gordon, where they, a few games in, they, didn't play him at all, and you're sitting there hey, this guy looks pretty good to me. I don't coach.
I'm
then
just
he
saying.
goes on and wins the Doak Walker Award. So
sometimes we're not that dumb, Holden. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes we know what we're talking about. That's all I gotta say.
I think that Jaden is going to be more involved. Yeah. We didn't get to talk to him after the game, but you got the sense from the teammates where it was kind of hey, we know that this guy's capable of doing it. Now you guys got to see it. And so it's kind of one of those weird things. It's still a mystery why he didn't get more touches, especially, it's not like they've played all cupcakes. They played Auburn and Michigan, and the dude barely saw the field. He didn't even see the field against Auburn at all. So that was just a weird thing to me. I think we'll get to see him against Texas.
Auburn's a
But,
nicely
you know.
decorated cupcake. Holden. I just wanted to argue that really quick. It's a cupcake. It just looks has a different logo. They try to put it up and make it look nice. There's a lot of money over there. But you make it look like a cake, and it still might just be a cupcake.
Speaking of Auburn, speaking of that cupcake, Auburn couldn't protect Jackson Arnold at all. Texas has had a rough time protecting Arch Manning so far this season. Is this Oklahoma defense just licking their chops and saying, you know what, we didn't get 10 sacks against Auburn, we're going for 10 sacks against Texas?
I think so, and I think they kind of know that this one's going to come down to them, because they know that there's I mean I would say it's kind of up in the air still whether Hawkins or Mateer's going to draw the start, but that the defense is going to come down. They're going to be a big factor in this game whether they end up winning or not. And I think they're not looking down on Texas's O-line, but they're for sure saying, hey, we can get after these guys. And one thing too, just that I've noticed with this OU defense is that they've been really good at stopping the run this year. And, if they can do that again against Texas, then you make Arch try and beat you. I think that's, kind of where Jackson Arnold got against OU, is they needed Jackson Arnold to throw the ball, and he ended up holding on to it. That's why he took so many sacks. Could be a similar recipe against for Arch, against OU's defense this year. I wouldn't want to have to go up against them. I mean, even last week they played without a couple of their starters on the defensive line, and they still, we know Kent State, but they still got after the quarterback and everything. But I would be a little bit nervous as a Texas fan, knowing how the way their offensive line has played and how the OU defensive line has played this year.
Holden, we talked to Brian and we talked to Roger earlier this week and just kind of dissected what this game, the Red River rivalry, is all about. And of course, it's played at the Cotton Bowl, and I think Brian was voicing some concern about why that even exists anymore. And I think that our buddy Roger was pleading the fifth on that. And there was and this rivalry is interesting. And I did pose the question of like, hey, did it get any more important? Like, the SEC just means more. When they came into the SEC, was there a shift? Did anything really change there because of like the caliber of the league and the playoff implications? And both guys seemingly acted like, hey, this has always meant a lot to these fan bases. It's not like there's anything that was heightened when they came into the league last year. What's your take on this rivalry? How hot is it? We know a lot about the Iron Bowl. This is one of those we don't really know a lot about outside of what we see on television. What is the atmosphere like? What is the game day like? And what's your coverage plan like? I always like to hear that.
Yeah, well, I don't think the only way you could add extra juice for it is if they're both in the top 10.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I mean, this game is the most important game for both fan bases every year, and we've seen it where we've had some good Texas teams that lose to some bad OU teams. We've had some good OU teams lose to some bad Texas teams over the year. And, probably even in those bad Texas years or bad OU years, the one thing you hold on to is, hey, we beat OU. We beat Texas.
Sounds like the Iron Bowl, yeah.
And that makes your season feel at least a little bit better if you're able to beat this team. And, where they play at the point in the season, it's kind of the halfway point. And, it could really decide how the rest of your season is going to go. Yeah. If OU's 5-0 right now, they beat Texas, you're thinking they're pretty good in terms of making the playoff. Sure. Especially this year, Texas almost has to win this game if they want to make the playoff. Because if they lose, they have just zero margin for error the rest of the way. They'd have to win out.
Oh, I thought they were at that point.
But yeah, the game's awesome. I mean, I got to go a few times as a fan when I was in college.
Oh, I love that.
And the last 2 years last year's game wasn't super fun because one team showed up and the other didn't. But the 1-2 years ago where it came down to the wire, I mean, those are the games that you live for and covering, just the excitement from both sides. And, that touchdown was in the OU end, so you're just deafened by the noise of the Dylan Gabriel to Nick Anderson touchdown, and you can kind of hear it on the other end where it's just stunned silence and everything. And it's an awesome game just because it's split down the middle at the 50. Basically, one end it's a home game, the other end you're on the road.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's a really interesting just tactically for coaches too and the players, because you get down in the other end and all of a sudden now you can't hear So it's an interesting thing. You start on one end and you can communicate, and then the next you get past the 50, and all of a sudden you're having to go silent count or whatever it is, just to try and beat the noise and everything. So
That's awesome.
It's an awesome game. I've never been
throw
to the
deep,
Iron Bowl.
Throw deep. If you're on the 20, just go for it all, man. Just try to get all the way down there. Don't try to ground and pound. Forget all that. Don't worry about trying to call plays on the other side.
I've never been to the Iron Bowl. I've never been to Ohio State, Michigan, but OU, Texas, those are the three big rivalry games.
Yep.
It's the three biggest ones. Whichever one you want to pick is, your choice. But the OU Texas just has that uniqueness because it's a neutral site game. They never play at home, and it's always the week of the Texas State Fair, and the game is played in the middle of the fair.
Yeah.
It's
cool.
It's different. It's unique.
It is very Texas and Oklahoma. It is very Western, and that's really, really neat thing. I love that.
Yeah.
That's really good
You're
stuff.
on the sideline, and all of a sudden you see Matthew McConaughey and Glenn Powell and
his
Trey
like,
Young and all these
like
celebrities that come out for the game.
I love it.
But speaking of big names, like games like the Iron Bowl, you have like it almost creates legacies where you have Bo Jackson. People remember Bo Jackson's games against Alabama. People will remember Cam Newton's games. They have Cam back. I mean, it's got its own nickname. Is it like that there, where their legacies are created within those fan bases? And if so, who's the guy on Saturday that could be that guy that kind of changes his own legacy in Sooner Nation?
Well, John Mateer, if he ends up playing, he would be the one to lead them to the victory and everything. And but no, there's so many great plays, so many great moments. One of the things that sticks out the most for pretty much any fan of either side was back in the early Bob Stoops days when Roy Williams leapt over the defensive line and sacked Chris Sims in the end zone for what ended up kind of sealing the game for them. They call it the Superman play and stuff like that. Baker Mayfield's been awesome. You've had just plenty of great players. Colt McCoy, George. It seemed like the Shipleys haunted OU every year that they played. So
was that somewhere else?
That was Ohio State.
Oh shoot!
Yeah.
Is that where that was?
Ohio State, Oklahoma.
When did he plant the flag? He's crazy.
Yeah, because they lost at home the year before, and then they won at Ohio State the next year, and Baker planted the flag and everything.
It's a program that deserved it. That's all I got to say about that. So I'm not upset about that.
But getting to wear the golden hat is an iconic moment and something that everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
And maybe we get a Michael Hawkins or a Jaden Ott moment. Maybe it's Arch Manning. Heck, maybe
weird.
One of these defensive guys ends up having a 3-sack game that ends up kind of determining the game in a 14-10 awful defensive battle.
We love those ones. It might be.
I think those are awful. The low scoring games, I think they're awful. That's my hot take.
I'm not a defensive.
Some people may like them. I don't.
I'm married.
That was the one thing I hated about the SEC growing up, was there are too many low-scoring games.
Yeah, boy, how times have changed, just in all of college football. But yes, I think there was a LSU Bama game that ended in like 9-3 or 9-6 or something.
Auburn, Mississippi
State. That was a
State
national title game too, right?
Yeah.
Was that the Yeldon game? TJ Yeldon game.
Yeah, and then it was an Auburn Mississippi State game that was 3-2.
Yeah,
it wasn't baseball.
I mean, you know what? Might as well have been. So, yes, there's no doubt. Holden, listen, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Looking forward to this game for sure. And then, of course, unpacking all of it next week with you guys to see who comes out on top, man. And in a lot of ways, depending on what the personnel is, this could go anybody's way. So, Holden, appreciate your time. Join us for OKC. Have a good week and good weekend, man.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later.
Good stuff. Thanks, Holden Cruzmark holding it down, as always, there for us in Oklahoma City. We're going to take a quick break here on Southeast Sports Plus. Much more to come when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back in Southeast Sports Plus, rolling right along. Simone, Gerhard, Patrick, joining you as we talk all things week 7. Is it week 7? Week 7 of the college football season. It is flying by. Halloween. I don't even have a Halloween costume. You have a Halloween costume picked out yet?
And the last time I picked out a Halloween costume, I was single digits age old.
So like that was only a couple years ago.
So like 2 years ago.
Patrick, you have a Halloween costume?
Let's see. I think we talked about something. I think Kenzie and I.
Are you gonna go trick or treating?
I'm not gonna go trick or treating. I might. You still gotta wear a costume.
I mean,
I'll wear a costume on the show.
Oh yeah, well I won't be here. I mean, I'll be.
I'll make sure.
I hope that you guys enjoy that. I will be trick or treating and taking the entire day off because when you become a parent, Halloween it's like 10 out of 10. It is the best thing ever. I didn't care about it before, but now it's like to me it's as important as Christmas Day.
See, last year I think I did 3 Halloween costumes. I did the first one was golfer and Kenzie was a caddy.
Last year in 1 year you did 3. Oh, you're in college, so yeah, and you have parties and stuff to go to.
And then I was Boston Rob from Survivor.
Okay, yeah.
On a Friday, and then I went as a hockey player. She dressed up as Stanley Cup. So.
Oh, okay, nice.
That's nice. So that was like you trying to put it out into the world. Speaking of pro sports, our guy Jack Patterson there in Columbus, Georgia. This is a guy. He is all knowing, all things. Back with his rotating Georgia helmet, and man, at some point I would just want a closer look at all the things that you have in that office because it is crazy. I'm sure there's something Braves in there. How are the Braves doing in the postseason, by the way?
Ooh.
Doesn't matter. Does not matter.
Listen, man, you're coming in here with all the heat, all the smoke. You were sitting here trying to dog me out on my social media yesterday.
I watched what happened on this fair program, and just one thing I want to say: duh, Yankees lose.
Okay. That was dropped in the group chat last night by one Patrick Walsh.
Yes, Patrick Walsh came in strong with that exact comment.
And please understand, Patrick, you are not free from the smoke either because in this sports department, in the highlight factory, low Mets never die.
Hey, okay, Jack, because I went up to fine old Atlanta, Georgia, up to Truist Park a couple months ago and watched the Mets clobber 7 or 8 home runs against those amazing Atlanta Braves. Hey,
how'd that work out for you?
Wait. Do they do this there?
How'd that work?
Do they do this there?
Yeah.
You know what? I would rather watch this than I would talk about anything.
When's that last championship the Mets have brought to New York City? Huh?
I will say that's kind of cool.
That sure.
Just saying. I'm just saying.
Hey, I'm on the hockey.
Man,
Listen,
listen. I dig the jersey. I'm not a Lightning fan. I'm a Predators fan, but I dig the jersey. Okay, I dig the jersey. I will give you that. Okay.
Both my football teams are bad, so I'm already on to hockey.
Yeah, but you got to understand, we are deep in Braves country. We're the home of the AA affiliate. Shout out to Fuzzy and the Columbus Clingstones.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Is that the team you stole from us?
Yeah, stole from Perth. Stole from Pearl.
Dang it, man, that's cool. Can I get one of those? Can you get one of those to 555 Broadcast Drive here in Mobile?
Well, I have to put out see if there's any more left. This was middle of the season last year, so if they got any more hanging around Synovus Park, we'll get you a couple. All right, but but like I said, we're deep in the heart of Braves country. Okay, so
y'all you're not very busy right now. Is what you're trying to say?
This is cute coming from a Yankees, Mets, and Braves fan,
and now Blue Jays fan.
No, we're talking about a fan of the Yankees who just became a fan of the Yankees like 6 days ago, and then we're talking about a Mets fan who's delusional in thinking that they're going to win a World Series anytime.
I would like to correct your mistake. I became a fan of the Yankees 2 days ago, and I became a fan of the Blue Jays about 3 hours ago. Oh, Canada! That's how we're rolling into the rest of the postseason. That's all I have to say about that. And you call me the bandwagon. Say what you want to say. I just cheer for the winning team.
I can at least appreciate the fact that you're honest about it, Simone.
You know what?
Okay?
I want everybody to have a great time. I want everybody to have a really, really good time.
I can appreciate that, okay?
Yeah, I'm a fan of everybody.
But, Patrick, love you, but low Mets will never die, okay?
Sure. I guess we'll
y'all want to talk college football?
Let's talk some ball. Let's talk some college football. How about the Deep South's oldest rivalry? If there's anybody that's smack dab in the middle of it, it's you. Literally, figuratively, in about every single way, Jack. And one thing that you do in Columbus is work really, really hard. We have a ton of respect for your operation there, the Highlight Factory. I love that. I wish I would have coined that myself. Get the copyright. You guys, obviously, a very, very busy week, of course, with Auburn and Georgia. And, man, if I see one more headline that is on upset alert, I'm going to sit here and just start to actually believe them because I'm not really there yet. And I'm trying to figure out, Jack, Why are folks so adamant that this game is going to be close and or that the Auburn Tigers are going to get the win over Georgia?
See, the thing is, Simone, everything kind of lines up for it to say that it could be Georgia on upset, okay? And listen, Auburn has the talent. There's no questioning they have the talent, okay? But they have not been able to put it together this season, okay? I mean, outside of maybe the Baylor game, they haven't really been able to put together a full game offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it goes without saying. It's been said, it's been preached. Nick Saban has talked about it. Journey here at night is different, okay? If you never experienced it, it's different. In my opinion, it is one of the hardest places to play. I don't know why it is not talked about.
I agree
more.
with you 100%. Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
I don't know why it's not talked about more, okay? It will be a hard environment. Even Kirby Smart has said it's not going to be easy on Saturday night. It's never easy when you go on the plains to play Auburn. And, you know, the rivalry, like I said, you know, and it's not saying that Georgia's been playing bad. Georgia's been playing fine, okay? And, you know, common knowledge would say Georgia should win this game easily, depending, you know, going back by how Georgia's been playing and how Auburn's been playing.
Sure.
But like I said, when you know how much talent that Auburn offense has, their defense has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can't overlook that.
That's
okay?
about 12 years into that, my guy. It's about 12 years strong. I mean, the defense gets it done. The offense can't score.
Exactly. But just saying, you know, at this point, in my opinion, I think Auburn's defense is playing at a championship level. I really do think
that's been said several times on this show. No question. I agree with you.
And so, if the offense can put anything together, that shapes up for a Georgia upset.
If I had a dollar, telling you right now, Jack, I love you. I love you, and I'm telling you, it is like on repeat. It is on repeat in this building. Yeah. Gerhard, I feel like all of us are broken records. If the offense can just do something. We've said it under Coach Freeze. We said it in the 4 seconds that Brian Harsin was there. We dang sure said it when Gus was there. And it is a tale as old as time. It really is.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's a curse. I feel like there's a curse, G.
Yeah. And we were talking earlier this week about this matchup, and one of the interesting things is it seems like that Auburn can't protect Jackson Arnold at all. But it also feels like for the first time ever, Georgia's not very good at pressuring the quarterback. Is that another angle in game that you think can, go Auburn's way, where Auburn does pull off this upset?
I think if Auburn's going to have any shot in this game, they've got to be able to protect Jackson Arnold. And Gerhard, you're right. The Georgia defensive line has not been as feared as they've been in previous years, okay? You know, we talk about the defensive line for Georgia has been a NFL draft factory, basically, okay? And it's been different, okay? But at the same time, you know, it's an opportunity for Auburn if they can keep Jackson Arnold upright.
Yeah.
I mean,
or if he can get rid of the dang ball.
That too.
Jack.
That too.
Jack.
But
I have those triple sacks that are in Norman, like ingrained into my head. Gerhard and I sitting in Baumhauer's and literally just in utter. I said, if this dude takes a sack to end this game, I'm never watching an Auburn snap. Now that did not last very long because I did continue to watch the game, but I literally could not believe he allowed. Just throw it anywhere. I don't even care. Throw it on the back of the end zone. Just don't take a sack and don't get a safety in the last play of the game in your former stomping ground. What?
Exactly,
dude.
And let's just be honest about it, okay? I feel like, and we're at this point where now I feel like this is a borderline must-win game for Auburn and for Hugh Freeze. I really, really do. He's got to coach his best game offensively if Auburn's gonna have a shot in this one, okay? Because at the end of the day, the buck stops with Coach Freeze, okay? He's the offensive play caller. He's supposed to be the quarterback guru, okay? And listen, the good vibes were there at the beginning of the season. You know, the win over Baylor had everybody, thinking, hey, this team might actually go to the playoff. But, a game in Oklahoma that they should have won, and then that Texas A&M game, which might have been an insult to offenses everywhere. Like, you can't afford to lay an egg prime time at home against one of your biggest rivals. You can't afford to do it.
Bro, we got some funny people in Next Star. I swear to God. I laughed through Brian a minute ago. Jack cracks me up every time we talk. And part of the reason I laugh is not only because you're funny, Jack, but I swear to God, Auburn fans entering the year with national championship hopes, only to start 0-2 in SEC play, with a coach possibly getting fired, is how many seasons in the last 13 that I've covered this team have we? Out of 13, I would say, I don't know, 11, that is that same storyline in some capacity has existed. It's exhausting.
Simone, this is my 13th college football season at this television station, okay? My first one was the year the prayer and Jordan Herring to kick 6, okay?
Hey, I was there too, my guy.
Well, I wasn't there. I wasn't working in sports at the time. I was working in our production department, okay?
Well,
but I was in our control room when both of those games happened over our air.
Yeah.
Okay? But, it's wild to see, essentially it's just rinse and repeat. Is rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Okay? And the expectations do not die down. It doesn't matter who the coach is. But, like I said, when you have the amount of talent that this program has right now, okay? Like, you've got to do something at some point.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I don't even, I think Auburn fans, I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to be satisfied with, losing a game against Georgia. But it might give them a little bit of hope if they're competitive in this game, okay?
Yeah.
Don't
go out there and make it close. I mean, I really hate to even say that because then there's also the frustration of if it's close, can you not win there in the end? But do you feel good that you didn't lay a total egg? Yeah. Let's take a listen to Hugh Freeze quick. I know we obviously had a couple of availabilities with the coach here. Let's hear what coach had to say about the Deep South Ultra rivalry this edition.
We definitely self-scouted everything. To see where we're heavy tendency-wise on things, and then we had plenty of time, so it was both. Got a jump start on Georgia also, and but we did both. Sense of urgency is this. I mean, look, it's always a sense of urgency. You play in the SEC, and there's a lot of teams that are in situations similar to ours, and now it's about the next game up, and that's Georgia for us, and what an exciting opportunity, and that's what our focus is, and the sense of urgency should be heightened constantly when you get these opportunities.
Coach Hugh Freeze certainly knows what is at stake here. He knows how important this game is. We're going to take a really quick break, Jack. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation and kind of break down what this matchup looks like against the Georgia Bulldogs here on Saturday at Jordan-Hare Stadium. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, of course, two sides of the rivalry. We spent all day talking about Auburn and the frustrations there. Over on the other end there, Jack, of course, Georgia right now, a lot of opportunity still ahead for both teams, but Georgia's certainly in the driver's seat. They still can control their destiny despite the loss to Alabama. What is kind of the state of Kirby Smart's program in 2025 right now?
You know, Simone, last week was a major help, okay? You know, because there was a lot of questions. If you go across, Georgia fans, they say that they should have won that game easily against Alabama, okay? That, Alabama didn't win it as much as Georgia lost it, okay? So last week was a definite get-right game for the Dogs, and now, once again, this is one of those ones that you just circled on the calendar. You had Alabama circled on the calendar. Obviously, you got Ole Miss and Texas circled on the calendar. Now you got Georgia Tech circled on the calendar too. But Auburn's been the one, not so much because of the team, but it's because of the team, the place, and the time. Okay? And this is one of those things where Georgia's had a young team. They've had to get a lot of guys some experience. Now they got to go to a hostile environment, and they've got to be able to get the job done on Saturday night. Gunnar Stockton, his first year as the starter for Georgia, but he's been able to hold his own both passing and rushing. But now it's like you got to go into a place where you're facing a defense that's one of the best in the country. You got to be able to not make mistakes, and honestly, you got to be able to get the ball to your wideouts, and then you got to let your running backs do work. I mean, I think the biggest thing for Georgia has been getting their running back so much experience. Chauncey Bowens has been a revelation for the Dogs this year. He's been a workhorse for them. I think he's really pretty much RB1 at this point. You got Nate Frazier, who's still there. He has experience. He's been there a while. He's got experience. And then Josh McCray, he's been kind of a bowling ball for them at the goal line situations. He's the guy that got the game-winning touchdown against Tennessee. So, the Dogs have the experience of going into hostile environments and getting the win.
Sure.
So you got to basically take what you did against Tennessee, aside from the slow start. And that's something that they've got to fix too, is starting slow. But aside from the slow starts, you got to be able to take what you did against Tennessee and take it with you down 85 to go to Jordan-Hare.
Yeah, you teed up my question because Joey Aguilar started that game, I think, 14 of 16 and 100-something yards and a couple of touchdowns early on in that game. How much is that Georgia defense preparing for Jackson Arnold? Because that Auburn has watched that tape, and I would expect Auburn to come out and try to do what Tennessee did, get the ball out to Cam Coleman and some of their talented receivers.
Absolutely. That's going to be the focus for this Georgia defense and the thing is that, we talk so much about Arnold throwing, but Arnold's probably one of the better runners for quarterbacks in the SEC. Okay. They do a lot of running, whether it's design runs or whether if the play breaks down and he just takes off with it. And that's something that the Dogs are going to have to be aware of on Saturday if they're going to be able to contain that Auburn offense. And then on top of that, Auburn's receivers are talented. You got Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, Horatio Fields, and that's going to be a task for that Georgia defense, okay? Georgia, the defensive players, they're really good now. It's a solid unit, but that is elite wide receiver room that you're going to be going up against coming up on Saturday.
Let's take a quick listen. We got Kirby Smart. Yeah, let's take a quick listen to Coach Smart here this week, gearing up for this one on the Plains.
Well, it's not necessarily hard. I mean, it's not what makes it hard at Jordan-Hare. It's what makes it hard anytime you go on the road, right? It's an intense, crazy environment. The night games are more so than the day games in terms of that atmosphere that's created. But we practice in that. Like we create an environment of chaos and noise and try to create confusion and do things so that we have to communicate in that. So our guys get to practice in it. We'll have to go out and execute. I don't know what increases from game 1 to game 2 on the road more. I think, you got a lot of freshmen that now may not have as much anxiety because they've done it once. There's certainly more anxiety the first time you do it, but it's not like that goes away. You have to be confident and know your plan and execute your plan.
In the SEC, as we know, Kirby Smart is certainly going to make sure that his young guys know it's hard to play on the road and at Jordan-Hare Stadium specifically. Quick, Jack, quick key to success there for Georgia there at Auburn. What do you think?
I can't hear you right now.
Oh, I got you now. My bad. Quick key to success there for Kirby Smart and Georgia to get it done there at Auburn.
Still nothing.
Nope, still got it. All right, guys. We lost Jack. Not sure. Jack, we're gonna go to break. We'll text you, my guy. You can't hear me, but I can hear you, and you look good too. So
technology works for you until it doesn't.
No doubt. All right, guys. It's been a good first hour here on Southeast Sports Plus. We're gonna figure out why we dropped audio. I have no idea. Something went down here in the hub in the Highlight Factory, and so we'll get that fixed up as we go into hour number 2. But Southeast Sports Plus, we'll be right back, guys. Stay with us.